Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. Glad to see you all. It's been a while since a coding stream. I guess last Friday was the last coding stream. But good to see you all. As you can see, my chat overlay is broken, and so I'm not. Unfortunately, we won't be able to test your CDN today, Fob. Some of the APIs that I was using got deprecated, and I don't have the time to fix them. I'll probably work on fixing them tomorrow. But for now, you get this nice chat overlay here. This background was generated using Midjourney. I said, cyberpunk secret garden pixel art in the style of Metal Slug. This is what we got. What do you mean no time? We got other things to do. So let me tell you what we're going to work on today. And Alka, thank you for the resub. I didn't make this chat. This is actually JChat for anybody that's interested. This is the one that I use in my IRL setup. I like it. So check it out. But yeah, what are we working on? So we have been building this stuff out for 3 streams. This will be our 3rd stream working on this. But essentially what we're doing is we're implementing an autocomplete UI that includes loading state, error state, it debounces input, and it also aborts requests if new requests get made. So we're essentially implementing all of these things across multiple frameworks. So day 1, we did React, Svelte, and Vue, and then 1 implementation of Solid. Last time, we did a 2nd implementation of Solid using Create Resource. We also did Angular 2 different ways, both without RxJS and with RxJS. Today, we're going to do it with Qwik and also Preact with signals. And if we have time, potentially also with like jQuery and vanilla. But we're going to start with Qwik. I have not built anything with Qwik yet. So I had Mishko on the stream a few months back to teach us about Qwik and introduce us to it. Let me fix my chat really quick, like that. But I myself have not actually spun up a Qwik app, so this will be my first Qwik app. I have a feeling it's going to be very similar to our Solid solution, except there will just be some Qwik specific things. But yeah, that's the plan for today. Welcome in, everybody. Glad to see you. If you want me to say hi to you, just say hi in the chat. There's not many of you here today. It should be easy enough to just say hi as you say hi in the chat. And what's up, Radis and Finder and Alka? Good to see you. And Vet and Andrew. How's it going? And Dimfarb. And hello. And Galloping Tapeworm. Hi. I'm curious though, is there enough contrast on the chat on my screen? I don't know if there is. It's better if I do that. It's easier to see with that. And what's up, Sequel Quartster and Fob and Jords? Glad to see you all. Hello. Better. Yeah. I think before you could barely see it. This is better. So yeah, and actually let me show you the actual UI that we're implementing. So this is the React implementation. And essentially as you start typing, we query against an API that we wrote that suggests different types of trees. Because this is the coding garden, and sometimes trees grow in gardens. So this is our endpoint. You can pass in some text, and it will respond with a list of trees, so like oak and white oak. But you'll notice that the response time varies. So we built into the API, sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it's really quick, because in the real world, that's kind of what you have to deal with when you're calling an API. And then also we built in a way of forcing an error. So if I search for boom, the API actually returns a 500 status code, and we need to handle that in our UI. So this is the UI. For example, if I type the letter A, after a certain amount of time, it starts searching, and we see the results, all of the trees that start with the letter A. But there's more to it. So check out the network tab here, because let's say a user starts by typing A, but then all of a sudden what follows? I have to figure out first what follows the letter A. Like A. Let's do like G versus G. Okay, so let's say a user types the letter G, but they're actually going to type the word gum for like gum tree. Watch what happens in the network tab. So if I do G, it starts searching, but then if I update my query, it actually cancels the previous request. So this is what you want to happen in the real world. if for whatever reason you did fire off a request, but now the state of the UI has changed, you need to fire off a new request and you should cancel the previous one. So that's one of the things we implemented with the abort controller and abort signal. So basically, when the user starts typing again, we cancel any API requests that have happened already to prevent unintended UI changes. Because if this response came back after this response, then the UI would be out of sync, because the UI would actually show the response for the letter G versus GUM. So we've implemented that. And then you can also see the debouncing that we've implemented. So as I start typing, you'll notice that it doesn't search until I've stopped typing for, I think it's like 700 milliseconds. So that's it. We're not doing throttling, we're doing request canceling. And we could potentially implement throttling as an exercise here, but I was thinking at a certain point, API throttling, you'd have to build something on top of it, right? Because if you're throttling the API and the user is still typing, like you're throttling, and then like you didn't, I don't know, there'd be some tricky things you would have to solve there, but we're not throttling, we're just canceling. But throttling is another way that you could potentially solve this. Yeah, and so debouncing is basically, because we're automatically making that request, we don't make the request until the user has stopped typing for a certain number of milliseconds. Yeah, so this is debouncing. Debouncing is what we're demonstrating here. Debouncing is not making the request unless the user has stopped typing for a certain number of milliseconds. No, so we're not using Lodash. I would say if you're interested in any of the previous solutions, definitely check out the GitHub repo, because we have it implemented in React, in Svelte, and everything else. So we're not using any external library except for the UI library that we chose for each one of these. But now we're going to use Qwik. So let's jump right into it. Let's make a Qwik app. A Qwik app real quick. We need this command. I'm going to go ahead and kill the React example. And we will create a Qwik app. Where would you like to create your app? This will be Qwik example. Basic app, demo app with routing built in. I don't think I want that. App with routing built in is the empty app. Demo app. A Qwik app with Qwik. I think we're gonna go with empty. We'll see. If we don't like it, we'll start again. It's not the end of the world. Install dependencies. No Git repo because we're already in one. And did it already? That's quick. The fact that it installed dependencies without me even noticing was crazy. What? Okay. Cool. We have a Qwik app. Let's look at it. So here's our directory. I mean, here's the thing. So I haven't worked with Qwik before. I've seen it. I've seen Mishko write it. I've looked at their docs. The right thing to do would probably go through their tutorial or their initial documentation, but it's so similar to things that I've worked with before. I think I can figure it out. I think anybody watching that has worked with Qwik a lot, feel free to chime in with things I'm potentially doing wrong. But this looks very familiar to, like, if you've built a React app or you've built a Solid app. Like, we've got our Vite config. Oh, it's using Qwik City by default. I thought Qwik City was for server-side rendering. What if I don't want server-side rendering? What if I want a completely static app? Oh, what if I don't want a router? What's up? I am Dana. Welcome in. Let's just look at the code. So starting at the root, I'm assuming is the entry point. I think to be a fair comparison with everything else that we've coded up, it needs to be a single page application. It should not have any sort of server-side runtime. I guess it's probably possible to use Qwik City to do a static build. I'll have to look at their docs, but okay, here's our entry point. We're loading in the router, and I guess this is actually using file-based routing. So in routes, we have, you obviously want to do SSR. We have our index.ts, which is our main page. So that's cool. And then a layout file, which does some like caching stuff. All right, to the docs. Let's disable all of this stuff. All right, getting started. Qwik City is built on top of Qwik, bringing opinionated routing and goodies to make your life easier. Okay. Directory-based routing, index files, spa navigation. Qwik provides the link component. Okay, maybe it'll do what it should do if I try building it, and let's see if that gives me static files or if it's going to require Node to deploy. Let's look at their docs for building deployments. None of these. I want static. How do I do static? Docs, guides, static site generation. The thing is, like, this isn't static site generation because we still want JavaScript. SSG. Here we go. The process of pre-rendering sites. The thing is, we don't want to pre-render. We just want JavaScript. Would this be under advanced? By default, the output directory is the dist folder. Let me just run build and see what happens. I just want JavaScript. Okay. We got a bunch of stuff. And then this should have been in the dist folder. And this has some stuff. We've got a build. We've got a service worker. Where's my entry point? One of these. Okay. Okay, this is, I mean, it's going to be trickier than I thought. I mean, maybe we don't want to use the CLI. Maybe I need to look at some older documentation to just add Qwik to the page. I mean, we could follow the guide for SSG, but the thing is, I don't think we want SSG. Configure it in the Qwik config. Sure, but show me in the docs. I mean, I haven't found it in the docs yet. And then where is the Qwik config? We've already built it with Svelte. We're not going to build it with SvelteKit though. This is all about demoing like completely client-side stuff. There's no. I mean, I have heard though that if you try to implement this same thing using something like Remix, it actually adds some benefits to the whole showing data on the client and preventing re-requests and stuff like that. But we're not that far yet. What if I just remove Qwik City? Qwik without Qwik City. Yeah, see, this is an old. I think this is an older guide when their CLI had a different different thing. We can try. Let's try SSG to see if that gives us what it's expecting. Here we go. We need to run this command, quick add. Static site. Okay. Build.server script will be automatically added to my package.json file. Fascinating. What's up, Begonovich? Welcome in. Adapters static vt will be created. Adapters static vt. Okay. I guess it's probably smart enough. Like if I have a component that has a lot of JavaScript, it's smart enough to include that in the static site generation. Let's see. My chat overlay broke. Yeah, I think that's the thing is like most of the time you probably want some kind of server-side rendering, and the fact that they have all the adapters to deploy to various services, really cool. What if I don't want to do that? I was actually reading an article this morning that was like Next.js is heavily tied to Versal, and one of the things is like they're trying to sell Versal services, which makes sense. They're a company. They're trying to sell server time. And if you have a framework that doesn't require a server, so like completely static or single page application, there's not really there's less of a service that they can sell you because you don't need servers for that. You just deploy it to a CDN. But yeah. The build files will be generated in the dist folder. Okay, so now if I run build, do I want to run build.server? I think I want to run build.server. And now in dist, this is a static site, so I can use HTTP server to just show my Qwik app like this. Okay, let's test it out though. Let's like rip everything out and just in my homepage, make it super, super simple. Yeah, we need some JavaScript. So in our index page, we'll just have a counter button, I guess, that displays the count. And then we need a count. So let's go to their docs and figure out how to add some state. I don't want to load data. I guess we could just do an alert. Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, to really see, is this working as we think it is? We have a button. So say hi, and then when you click it, I think what I do remember is on click needs a $sign, and then here we can do an alert. Hi, like this. So this will require JavaScript. If we run it locally, it should work as intended. Hi, great. And if we do a static build, the JavaScript should stick around. That's the main thing, is we want to make sure that the JavaScript sticks around. But we've broken it. Great. there's not a good error here. Error during build undefined. Maybe I need to look up like how do they do islands in SSG, because I need to maybe specify this component as an island. What's up, Ched? Welcome in. Is this using like Preact and Qwikify? I will say this is fascinating. Like I did not expect this. Like looking at the docs, basically, you're forced to use a server runtime, which is fine. It's fine, but that is not my experience with any other front-end framework from the get-go, right? I mean, it's starting to be with React, right? So now if you go to the React docs, they tell you to use Next.js. So it's like they're pushed in that direction, pushing you in that direction. So it's like I'm doing the thing that it's not expecting me to do, and I don't know what to do. And I mean, I think it's fine. I think their target audience and their customers are doing SSR. They have like a server runtime. That's a thing. Um, let's see if I can find anything in their issues. Electrothermal, thank you for the resale. Good to see you. Remix never supported the static thing, but that's intentional, so yeah. Yeah. Um, I really just want Qwik without Qwik City. Tell me how to do that. Because Qwik City is the router. If I don't have a router, then maybe I don't need server rendering. Oh, okay, does Vite have an option to choose Qwik? If it does, we can go that way. Let's see. I mean, this might be a good way to go. Let's see if there is a community template for Qwik. Actually, I might even be overthinking this, right? Because I could just like rip everything out, right? I mean, I'll leave all the files around for now, but and actually, honestly, we'll just delete the whole thing if things go wrong. But maybe I just want Qwik Vite. And I don't care about that. I just want the Qwik Vite plugin. And then why not make Qwik City? I think that's probably what they're going towards. Thank you, Fob. Like that. And then, like with Vite, you typically have a Vite. See, Dev is running it in SSR mode. Here's what I'm going to do. We are going to generate a vanilla Vite app and then add the Qwik thing afterwards. We're going to like manually set it up. I think I can get that working. This I just need to hold on to this. We need Qwik Vite. Here, I'm going to put this in chat. Remind me of this later, everybody. that's what we'll need. And for dev dependencies, we'll need this. Okay. Now, we're going to wipe out this folder. Is that like a standalone Vite? Let's see. It's still Qwik City. Oh, I see what you mean. Just like I can reference that when I'm doing my thing. Okay. So watch me. I'm a cowboy developer. I can figure this out without the docs, maybe. No worries, Bogdanovich. It'll still be useful because I won't have any. I can use that as a reference for our dependencies. So we're gonna run this command. We're gonna call this Qwik example. We will just say vanilla so it doesn't install anything else. We will use it along with TypeScript. I guess that might take more configuration. But we'll install dependencies, and then we'll try to get things going with Qwik. So typically the way Vite works is it just calls your main entry point, and then whatever's inside of there based on the plugins that you have will just work. So we need a Vite config. And in that Vite config, we can copy from here. It's going to look mostly like this, except we don't want Qwik City. And I'm guessing we need this Vite tsconfig paths thing as well. So we need that as a dev dependency. We need builder.io Qwik as a dev dependency. Should be it. That should be all we need. We'll remove this. And then the entry point, like we can delete everything except for main. Because main was doing a bunch of stuff. But now main will like load our main component. Yeah. So we have create Qwik city. We probably want to find like the create Qwik function or something like that. We're going to figure it out. Watch me. We'll figure it out. Do not use this file in production. No SSR. Great. So we have all this. Okay. This is going to be our entry point. And it's literally just going to call this. And instead of calling it root, we'll call it app. Like that. This becomes main.tsx. Our index imports main.tsx. And then we create an app.tsx, which will be our main Qwik component. So their main Qwik component looks like this. But we are going to get rid of all the extra stuff. So we're defining a component like this. We don't need router head or any of that other stuff. We literally just want this, and we literally just want it to say hello world. Okay. Why is this complaining? Did I miss something? No, that should be fine. JSX element implicitly has any type. Let's see. App, but --JSX is not set. Oh, we need to tell TypeScript that it... Okay, we need to update our TS config because we're using TSX. Let's actually just copy this. And then we don't have an ESLint file. And then we don't have any options. Let me grab this real quick. All right. First try. Well. Oh, wait. Source root not found. Okay, did I have the wrong import? Okay, index adds source main.tsx. We'll just update the title. Let's forget that happened. So this goes here. We're rendering it to the document. I mean, we probably could do something like document.querySelector root or whatever the main element is in here. App. We'll do querySelector app. And then app. Well, it tried to import some CSS. We don't want that. App just exports a component. The thing is, it might actually be looking for root.tsx. So what if we just rename this to root? I don't know. The thing is this even a problem I want to solve? I mean, the whole, if you're just joining us, the whole reason I want to do this is because every other example we've done It's completely client side. Does not require any sort of server side runtime. And let me look at your comment above. So I have veet.d.ts. I have veetenv.d.ts. I think the issue also is this plugin, Qwik potentially isn't the right one. Because if you look at the error in the console, or the error that popped up on the site, it's trying to do this, and the fact that it was looking for root.tsx, like it shouldn't need to do that. We basically just need a Qwik component loader plugin for that. No, you can have Qwik completely on the client side. As far as I know, it would basically just break your app into a bunch of JavaScript files and then like dynamically import those files on hover and stuff of your page. That's my understanding. That's my understanding. Is like the build process breaks it into multiple pieces. Failed to resolve endpoint. Oh yeah, see, it's looking. See, the plugin is now looking for multiple files. The fact that it was looking for root.tsx tells me that this plugin that I'm trying to use here, the Qwik plugin, is tied to Qwik. It's not just like a component loader, if that makes sense. So this ain't made for client only. No, the thing is, the initial Qwik demos were all just the Qwik library until they released Qwik. So I know it's possible, unless they completely removed that ability. Let's see if there's any other Qwik Veet plugin that we can get. Qwik plugin Veet. Qwik and Qwik. Let's look. What are the available exports here from Qwik Optimizer? Qwik Rollup, Qwik Veet. You think so? I think I can figure this out. Have faith. Here, I'm gonna set a 15-minute timer. If I can't figure it out in 15 minutes, we're just gonna go do Preact instead. And then I'll just send Mishko a message, or I'll open an issue on the repo, just like, hey, what if I don't want Qwik? But here, 15 minutes. If I can't figure it out in 15 minutes, we'll move on. I want to go to the Git repo. Maybe this is it, Drills. Maybe this is it. The thing is, we don't have focus mode. Oh, I have to modify the configuration. Probably. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. So basically the, well, not here. When I'm doing the render? No, it's not even here. Honestly, that might do it, right, M. Huckins? Like we just create a quick, we generate an Astro app and then just have a quick island. That's probably the easiest way to go. But yeah, this accepts some options, some render options, which I don't know what they are. But I don't think that's even it, because the thing is, when we start this app, it's not even looking at these two things. Like, check this out. Like, if I comment this out and try to start it, it's gonna look for the root.tsx thing, which tells me that this plugin is doing a lot more than just being able to load Qwik files. Just a second. Every now and then I press a keyboard shortcut that makes my dock not automatically hide, and I don't know how to fix that. Please die. This thing won't die. There we go. Yeah, I'll read that page drill, so I'll check it out. Here we go. Yeah, so this is what I have deduced, right? So we add this plugin here. Typically with Vite, it works by looking at your entry points, like your imports. But I literally commented this out, and that plugin is already looking for a root.tsx. So there's more going on with that plugin than usually goes on with Vite plugins, as far as I know. But I guess what we could do is if it's really just doing that, then we could override everything. Like we can actually just create a root.tsx here. And then do this, but without all the Qwik stuff. We instead just literally return hello world. Well, I guess we were already doing that because we updated the app to be called this. Yeah, and then we get this error. It's expecting entry.dev.tsx to exist, which is this. I see. So I think we can get this working. I think if we just follow the files that they expect to exist. What is it? Entry.dev.tsx. Yeah. Yes, I am America 2050. Are you new here? Are you new here? Cool. And then let's delete main. We can get rid of this. I think that's the thing is I don't think it's even going to use this HTML file. But now this does the thing. And then I don't know what the difference between app and root is. We'll just call it root, and we won't have an app. All right, first try. Okay, that's a start. I think we then need our root to have does it need a body? Because now we're getting this error. Can't access property node type. Value is null. Oh, it's because of this. We just want to render the document. We've done it. We've done it. It says hello world. But now the real proof of concept is we have a button. And I think we can do JSS fragments here. Thanks, Ryan Weed. Appreciate you. I thought I fixed this. My overlay is like breaking things. Yeah, my overlay doesn't load emojis, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not worried. Say hello, and then we add an onClick function. like this. Hi. All right, click it. It says hi. Beautiful. But now, moment of truth. Can I build it? I can't. um, cannot find type definition for file node. Okay. Here's the thing, though. It just generated a Qwik City thing, or like it requires a server runtime. Like I don't want, like I need it to have an HTML file with a loaded JavaScript file, right? So if I look at dist here, it's got all this stuff. No, sir. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's got like our root components and everything else. Is there a JavaScript file that I can just add to an HTML file and then it will work? Well, that's one point of Qwik. I'm fairly sure that before Qwik City, you could do Qwik without server-side runtime stuff. Fairly sure. I just need to figure out which one of these is my entry point. I think it's this one. So if I have an index.html, and then it just has a source or a script. Source is build/that. This will just work. Source entry.preview. Was this in their example? It was. Oof. Okay, then I don't want npm run preview. I just want to do HTTP server here. Let's see what happens. Qwik was always server side? Okay, then it doesn't apply. It doesn't. I was completely wrong in my assumption, and then it doesn't even make sense to compare it to the other frameworks. All right, but what happens when it tries to load this JavaScript file? We need to set type equals module. Okay. Doesn't actually do anything. Yeah. So yeah, but here's the issue. The output here, I believe, is expecting some kind of server runtime. Let's see. Well, thank you, Ryan Wade. I appreciate the vote of confidence while we're trying to figure this out. Maybe we can try this one. Yeah, we already tried SSG, but then we got a random build error. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call it here. If anyone at Qwik sees this, you just send me a message on, send me a DM on Twitter, be like, hey, you've got everything wrong. That's not how Qwik works. And that's fine. That's fine. But it's not, that makes it so that we can't compare it to the other frameworks, because those were comparing completely client side. So yeah, I'm gonna call it here. I had the complete wrong assumptions about what was possible with Qwik, and that's okay. That's one thing we learned today, is that at least as far as we can tell, based on the research that we did, Qwik requires a server runtime. Now, so next up, we're going to do Preact with signals. That will be pretty fun, though, because we're going to use signals. So Preact, if you've never heard of it, looks like React. It's smaller, and they were one of the first to implement signals. So yeah. Well, of course, yeah, they've requested to some external API, but that API was not a part of the code base, right? This is assuming that you're just a front-end developer and you're talking to some existing API that isn't in your code base. You could do that with Qwik and Qwik City, but you would have to, as far as I can tell, you'd have to create some kind of server action, which would require a server runtime. All right. And see you later, Ryan. Thank you for hanging out. Let's go. Let's create a Preact app. Does the vite command let you choose Preact? That actually would be really funny though, like an Astro app with a Qwik island. Does that even make sense? Yeah. Okay. So they have a Preact template with vite. So we're just going to use the vite command and generate a Preact app. Here we go. Nice. Okay. We have a thing. Now, honestly, we could probably copy paste our solid solution, and it would mostly work. But we'll do it from scratch just because some of you might not have seen when I was implementing the other things. So let's look at our code. And what's up, Shaw 256 Collision? Welcome in. And let's clean things up. So I'm going to get rid of all like the logos and the CSS and all this. And Mewtwo, thanks for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. You've caught us writing a Preact app, actually inspired by Mewtwo. so we started this. I think you rated us last time we were working on it, Mewtwo. The autocomplete UI showdown. So Mewtwo did a video a while back. Can you solve this front-end interview question? And she showed how to implement it with React. And now we're implementing it in like 5 other ways. So we implemented it with React in like 2 different ways, in Svelte in like 2 different ways, in Vue in like 2 different ways, in Solid in 2 different ways, in Angular in 2 different ways. We just tried Qwik, and then we realized, or at least I didn't know, I thought you could use Qwik without a server runtime, but apparently you need a server runtime, and all of other examples don't require any server runtime. All of this is completely single-page application client-side code. And Stony, thank you for the tier 1. Thank you for the tier 1. So yeah, we've implemented that same thing she did in all of these, and now we're going to do it with Preact and signals. So let's do it. Let's go. What we're doing right now is we just generated a Preact app with vite, and we're ripping out all the stuff. So I ripped out all the CSS, all of the base stuff. For now, I want it to be super simple. I just want it to say hello world. Did I miss your message? Oh, no worries, Mewtwo. Thank you for the raid, and welcome in, raiders. Hopefully, I can keep you as entertained as Mewtwo did with our Preact app here. So we have just a base app here. I want to say hello world. Let's see what happens. No errors in the console. Good to go. So let me pull in my to-do list. I can show you the list of the things that we did for every single app. And we could technically copy paste from our solid example because it's going to be very similar, but we'll do it from scratch just for all the new people. Here's our to-do. If you're out there, raiders, feel free to say hello. I'm pretty friendly. Okay, first thing, we're going to use Pico CSS for our styles because I'm not worrying about styling for this, and if you haven't heard of Pico CSS, it's pretty slick. You just add HTML elements, and they automatically look good by default. And what's up, Yonaries? Welcome in. So we're gonna do that so we don't have to worry about styles. It's just gonna look decent by default. So we'll grab that CDN. And what's up, SC May? Glad to see you. We'll throw it in here. And now we get a nice font with dark mode enabled by default. Cool. So next up is this get autocomplete results. We will copy that from our React example. But essentially, this is the function that reaches out to our API. It accepts some query that you're going to be auto-completing over, and it also accepts an abort signal so this request can be canceled. But we're just going to copy paste this into our Preact app because this is the function that we're going to be calling. Okay. Great. So we have it. Now we need an input that keeps track of the state of what the user has entered. So we'll have a label that says tree, because this autocomplete UI returns a list of trees. And then inside of that, we'll have an input. I actually will wrap this in a main container. This is one of the cool things about Preact. If you didn't know, you can just use the class attribute instead of class name like in React. So that's cool about Preact. Yeah, we'll have an input. We'll give it an ID of tree and a name of tree. And then this will be for tree. Same thing on your labels. You don't need HTML4. You can just do for. But that should give us this. And now I want to be able to search for like oak. That makes the API request, gives me back any trees that have the word oak in them. Shouldn't it be TS instead of TSX? No, we're using JSX instead of here. That's why we have a TSX file. Same thing over here. It's rendering the element like this. Yeah, so if you remember in React, you need class name and you need HTML4, which it's just so because class and for are JavaScript keywords, they made the decision with JSX that if for those to not collide with the built-in ones, they added new ones. But Preact has somehow figured out how to allow it without the collision of them. Yeah, exclamation mark theme will get you all my info. Yeah. All right. I can't answer that question, Xiaomi's or whatever your name was, because we got to keep moving. Sorry, keep track of the filter value. So for this, we're going to use a signal. We might change the implementation as we go, but this will be your first look at signals. So we're going to pull in signal from Preact signals, and we need a signal that we're just going to call like filter. That starts off as the empty string. So we create a signal, starts off as the empty string, and then the value itself can be bound to it. But honestly, if we look at Preact, let's see if they have any guidance on how to do controlled inputs. What did I do with the equal sign? Yeah, so the whole concept of signals that recently came out is this. The underlying concept is the same across all frameworks. So Angular, Preact, Solid, even Vue. The underlying concept of signals is the same, and Vue has been doing it since like 2016 under a different name. They weren't called signals, but now I think they were popularized by Solid. And then the fact that Angular adopted them, they're also popular, and now everybody's talking about signals. It's also possible that Preact implemented signals before Solid. I don't know, but it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Yeah, I think this is what I want. Basically, we're gonna bind the input to this signal here. So here we can say the value is filter.value, and then on change. So I believe on change is typically how you do it in React, but in Preact you actually want on input, and this gives you the event. And then from here we can say I think this is a setter. We can do event.target.value. Event.currentTarget.value. Like that. And if we've done this correctly, this signal will be updated under the hood as we type into the input, and we should be able to display it right here. Filter.value. Let's see. Do I need to install this as a separate library? Maybe I do. Here we go. Our separate dependency. Okay, now, if I did everything right, when I type into the input box, we'll see it on the page. We didn't do it right. Filter is not a function. Let's see, how do signals work? Yeah, there is no setter. There is no setter function like in solid. You literally say value equals thing, like you overwrite it like this. And by overwriting the value, that updates it under the hood. Okay, that's not working. Let's do some logging, and then we'll look at the docs if I can't figure this out. But I do believe you bind the input value and then override the value here. So eat@target.value is the thing, but then and then filter value. Let's see. But the value isn't flowing through here. Yeah, and if you look at the code base, we did it in Angular last time. We implemented it 2 different ways. So last time we did it the way you would do it if you were a brand new Angular dev and you never learned about RxJS. So if you look in our code base here and then look at the app, or did we? This is the RxJS way. What happened to the old way? Source. App. Oh, component, nothing special. Yeah, so we implemented it kind of like if you weren't using RxJS, just using like bound properties on the class component. So that's here. And then we had some smart people in the chat that helped me figure out how to do it with RxJS. And then we have this whole observable chain to do the same thing. Yeah, so we ended up using debounce and tap and switch map and subscribe. Yeah, so we've done Angular. Today is Preact day. That's what. Okay. Is it because I've defined the signal inside of the component, things are getting weird? Maybe that's it. I need to define it outside the component. Yeah, that's weird to me. Because I believe in Solid, you can actually define your signals inside the component. Whoa. Okay. So your signal gets defined outside. Fascinating. And I guess that makes sense. I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I want use signal. I think that's why. There's another one called use signal. Yeah, that's what I want. I want use signal. That's the one you can use inside of a component. Because signal you can use outside of components, which is cool because that would allow you to do like global state. This is what I want. Here we go. Moment of truth. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yeah, so signal alone can be used outside of Preact and can also just be like for global state. Yeah. Okay, we're on our way. So now we're keeping track of the input. If you're used to React, I mean, this line right here is probably weird. Like the fact that we're just reassigning it. We're not having to do like a set state or like an immutable update. We literally just override it and it works. So yeah, okay, we're keeping track of the filter value. When the filter changes, get suggestions. So basically, as the user types, I want to call the API to get the autocomplete results and display those. So I think in this case, I want a use effect or something like that, or an effect. Yeah, use signal effect maybe? Maybe this is what I want, but basically I want this to run anytime filter changes. And what's cool about this is you shouldn't have to specify a dependency array. Literally whatever you access inside of it, it knows to rerun this if the value changes. So what this should do is anytime the input value changes over here, because we're overriding it, that console log should run. Let's see. Yeah, so it starts off empty string. Yeah, look at that. It's beautiful. So this is another reason why signals are cool compared to like use effect in React. Automatic dependency tracking. You don't need a dependency array here. What that means is now when the filter value changes, we can actually call our API to get our results. So let's do that here. We'll say results is await get autocomplete results. Wonder if I can make this an async function. We'll see. I cannot, but I can do it as like an inline async function or like an inline iffy. Like this. And then we'll import get autocomplete results. So that way we can call it. We want to pass in filter.value. And then it is expecting an abort controller. So we'll create one. And I'll talk about what that is in a little bit, but this will essentially allow us to cancel the request if we need to. And then let's log out the results. So let's see. So now, yeah, and basically when the page loads, it calls the API with an empty string. I don't want to do that. So basically I'll just say if filter.value does not have a value, then don't do anything. Don't even try to make the API request, because I don't want to make an API request with an empty filter value. But if I type the letter A, it should make an API request and then get back the results and then log them out. So good. That's step one. When the filter changes, get the suggestions. But we also want a loading indicator, and we also want to see the suggestions on the page. So we'll have a few other signals here. We'll say like loading is a signal, starts off as false. Error is a signal that starts off as an empty string. And we'll do some stuff here. So we want to wrap this in a try catch. And if there was an error, we'll set the error. So we'll say error.value is error.message. That's true. So we set the error if there was an error. When this whole thing starts, we set loading to true. And when the whole thing is done, we set loading to false. Cool. And so now we'll have a conditional render right here. So if loading is true, show a progress indicator. So if loading is true, then we'll just add a progress component like that. This should do it. Yeah. So it's true right now. That's not good. Loading we always have to access .value. Yeah. So by default, nothing. And then if we make an API request, it's loading. And then when we get back the API request, loading is false. Good. We're on our way. But that would make it false since it's async. Well, it waits. So with this await keyword, This line of code is not going to execute until this one is done. So this one completes. Right now we're just logging it out, and then it sets loading to false. In a second, we'll put this inside of a signal, and then we'll render the data on the page right below it. Cool. Yeah, so we got a loading indicator. Let's actually show them on the page. I don't believe Preact has anything special for like showing lists and iteration. It's just a map like it is in React, right? Right? I assume. So right below here, we'll say we need results. What's up, Eddie? Welcome in. This will be a signal, which is going to be an array of string that starts off as an empty array. We have the abort controller. We're not using it yet. Well, we'll implement that next. So basically, that's after we implement debouncing, we're also going to need to implement canceling requests, right? So if one request is fired off, but then we want to make another request, we need to cancel the previous. So we still need to implement that. But not yet. Let's call this filter results. This. Honestly, though, this is the nice thing about it. I can literally just assign it, right? We get back the value, set it on our signal, we're good to go. I think what we'll do as well is we'll reset everything. So this gets reset to nothing when this whole function gets called, and then also the error gets reset to no error when it happens. And at that point, we can just iterate over it. So I'll say filter results. We're going to map over it to get each result. And I think we show like an article with the result inside of it. Why is this complaining? Oh, filter results dot value. Let's see. Nice. We've done it. So you type, calls the API, we render it on the page. But now we want to implement debouncing because let's watch what happens with the network here. Because of the way that we implemented this, and I guess one thing we'll do is if the filter is empty, we need to set the results to empty. So type to the letter A, it makes the API request, and then we see the results here. But if I search for almond, it's going to make a request for every single one. So A, AL, ALM, ALMO, ALMON, ALMOND. We don't want that, right? We want to wait until the user has stopped typing for a certain amount of time, and then we will call the API. And so for that, we're going to do a debounce. So how do we do that? In our React implementation, we actually had a custom hook. You don't get the behavior of use signal effect. Oh, this reruns when any of its dependencies change. Though I think you're totally right. It's potentially running. I think this reruns, like the dependencies are based on access, not setting. So because the only thing we're accessing in here is filter value right here and right here, this thing will automatically rerun if those things change. We're setting loading, we're setting filter results, we're setting error, but we're not accessing them. So because we're not accessing them, these are not dependencies of this use signal effect. As far as I understand it. So, and we can test this out, right? So we can basically log out, we can say filter value changed. If I were to console log one of the other ones, then they become a dependency because that's an access to that variable. Then I have an issue, right? Because I potentially have multiple dependencies that I'm updating in different places, which might cause this to run over and over again. But if this is behaving as we expect, we should only see this log once for each filter value, right? So for the letter A, we should only see it once. And AL, like we only see one, which means it's not rerunning it when the other things change inside of it as well. Is that what you were asking? Is that what you're asking? But yeah, that's the thing you have to think about with signals is um, how are the dependencies determined? It's based on access. And in this case, filter.value is the only signal that I access in here. If you try logging another one, you could get different results. Let's see. Um, like let's just try logging loading.value, and let's see if we get a double log. Yeah, we get a double log. See, and we've essentially created an infinite loop because it just keeps calling the API over and over again. So that's tricky, right? So because yeah, it basically because this changed, then it calls itself again, and then it calls itself again because we're overriding results, or because we're overriding this. Yeah, so this is what you need to be careful of with automatic dependency tracking. Is like basically a dependency loop. But in our case, the way we implemented it, there is no dependency loop. Almond. Yeah, there's no dependency loop because it's the only dependency and the only thing that we're accessing is filter value. Yeah. Okay. Now we want to debounce. The way we implemented it in React was with a custom hook. We had use debounced value. We could implement here use debounce value, but with signals. Yeah. Yeah, it happens. Like if you accidentally have a dependency loop and you're involving some kind of API, you could definitely run out of requests very easily. One dev's benefit is another dev's frustration. Yes, and we figured this out in both our implementations of Svelte and Solid, because we had some dependency loops that we needed to think through to make sure we wrote it the right way. Preact is not React. It's a React alternative, but when you look at Preact code, it looks exactly like React, and a lot of React things can be used inside of Preact. They have like a compatibility layer. Yeah. I think one thing we can do though is instead, I think we'll implement it this way. Like based on my prior experience with signals, instead of directly binding the input on every change, we will have instead of binding it directly, we'll have a separate thing called like debounced filter. Let's do this. Like this. And we're going to use debounced filter here and here. And we won't bind the value. And when the input changes, we'll have a little timeout that we keep overriding. So we'll say debounce timeout is a set timeout. We'll do a debounce of, for now, 700 milliseconds so you can really see it. And then debounce timeout is just going to be a little global here. Starts off as nothing. And then we override it. But before each time of setting a new timeout, I just renamed it just so it's very clear that in my code I'm only using the debounced one. Yeah, I got rid of filter entirely. And then here we need to clear that timeout. So basically what will happen is now we've actually turned this into an uncontrolled input. So now we're not binding the value. We're just letting that stay in the DOM. And every time it changes, we clear the previous timeout and say, in 700 milliseconds, we're going to set that current debounced value. We wait. If it changes again, we clear it, and then we'll wait again. So this should this should solve the issue. Now, this signal effect, use signal effect, will only run if debounce filter has changed. So let's see. Cool. But it borked. event.currentTarget is null. Do I have to do something like hold on to the value? Oh, you know what I think I do? I have to say something like value or like input value before the set timeout is this. And then later on we have access to it, I think. Let's see. Yes. Cool. But check this out. Yeah, so the ref to the current target goes away after 700 milliseconds. But now I can type all day long, and it's not going to start making a request until I have stopped typing for 700 milliseconds. And then, oh, we might have gotten an error. Let's take a quick break. Oh, we got results because I typed the letter A. Let's see. Let's see. So, and then let's try it. So I can type all day, but finally, if I stop typing for 700 milliseconds, it makes the API request. We get the results. If I clear it, it instantly clears it. Honestly, we might actually do a thing that says if input value is empty, then immediately set it. Otherwise, set a timeout. Because if you clear it, we want to just clear the results instantly. So A, 700 milliseconds, it makes the request. Delete it, they go away. I start typing. And then finally, when I stop typing, it makes the request. And then we see the results. Beautiful. Yeah, but now I'm going to reduce this. Like, I think 700 is probably too much. We could probably even go down to like 400. So it's like it's a bit more responsive, right? So like, is there an apple tree in this API? Yeah, we have apple and pineapple tree. Yeah, so we implemented this backend API, and sometimes we made it slow on purpose. That's why it's showing a turtle. Our backend literally waits to respond just so that you get some, so that way your front end is able to handle that. Okay, this is good so far, but as you can see, it's making all of these requests and completing them even though I'm typing in something new. And what we want to do is, if a new request is fired off, cancel the previous one so we don't have a bunch of requests lingering, because this actually could result in a scenario where like this request resolves after this request and then like the UI is out of date. So we want to cancel any previous requests. And that's where the abort controller comes into play. But we're showing the suggestions on the page. We can also, let's show an error. That should be easy enough because we're already catching it. Like if there was an error, set it on the page. I'm actually going to copy how I did that in my React app. This one. And it literally will be copy paste because it's just JSX that displays the error. But the one thing we have to change is we're looking at error. Oh, no. This is the React example. With the Preact example, we're looking at error dot value. You always have to remember the dot value with signals here. So this should still work. Great. But we built into the backend API. If I search for boom, the backend API responds with a 500 error, and then now we're showing that in the UI. One thing we need to do, though, is if we clear out the results, we should also clear out the error. Honestly, though, what if I do this here, then I don't have to do this? This is better. So every time it changes, clear the error, clear the results. If there was no value, do nothing. If there was a value, set loading to true and actually call the API. Yeah, this dot value. So I can search for oak. I can search for like gum tree. And then if I search for boom, it should error out. But if I remove, then the error goes away and I can search for other things. Cool. The last piece is going to be canceling those requests that are happening while we make a new request. I saw somebody ask about caching. We have not done any caching on any of the other solutions as well. We are saying that's a stretch feature to implement caching, but that's another way to improve this user experience. Is like if I search for the word for oak twice, I don't need to call the API twice. I can just use those cache results. Right now we're not doing that though. Let's get the abort controller working. So yeah, we're already doing this. Clear the suggestions when the filter is cleared. Debounce the input filter value. We're doing that. Abort and cancel requests when the thing changes. So, I mean, I think this is another scenario where, well, not another scenario. We need a cleanup function inside of this signal effect. In solid.js, they have a on cleanup that you can call, and in React, your use effect returns a function that is your cleanup function. Let's see in Preact, how do we clean up our signals or our signal effects? Does anyone know? Is it the return of the effect? Don't forget to clean up effects if you're using them extensively. Otherwise, your app will consume more memory than needed. Oh. This returns a disposal function. Fascinating. Are we gonna have are we gonna have to do this manually? Like we get back the dispose and then pass that into a use effect to call it? Let's find use signal effect because that's the one that we're using. Yeah. No, I don't think it's rude harsh. I think I mean that's kind of the precedent we set here is like I'm doing something very specific. And if you're going to talk about completely unrelated stuff, it doesn't make much sense to distract us with that. Cuz I do try to read most chat messages. Okay. Does this have a return value? Oh, can we return a cleanup function? Is it going to be this easy? Let's see. And so if you're wondering where I saw that, I'm looking in the function signature. So this says accept a function that returns void or accepts a function that returns a function that returns void, which tells me that this might actually work like use effect where you actually return the cleanup function. Let's see. Let's see. Um, yeah. Wow. It aborted it. It aborted it. But one thing we want to do is if the error was an abort, then we don't show that error in the UI because the request is happening again behind the scenes. So watch it happen again. So I search the letter O, it fires off that request. Then I search for O. Oh, I gotta be quick though. I gotta be quick. So O, yeah. Then it canceled that one. Then it searches for OA. And then yeah, so it's canceling them. I'm trying to remember what was I using as an example. I think I was searching for like gum, maybe. Let's show that example. Because if I do G and then GU and then GUM, it canceled all of them until finally it's like, all right, they're done. We're not going to make those requests anymore. Now we're going to fire off that request. All right. Was I searching for ash tree? Yeah, cancel that, do that. Okay, but here's what we're gonna do. If this was an abort error, then don't show it in the UI. We're not gonna set the value. So we'll say if, well, I need to copy this code from our React example because I forgot how we figured out if it was specifically an abort error. It's true. It only cancels it on the client. There's probably an implementation on the server side to prevent sending the response, I guess, somehow. It's true. It's true. Your server is still going to be doing its thing. If error name is not abort error, set the error so that it gets shown in the UI. That's what we'll do. One thing though is we don't want to set loading to false, or we don't want to set the results if it was canceled. Do we have a aborted? Is this a boolean? It is a boolean. So I could say something like, if this was not aborted, then set that. I feel like we could run into some kind of like race condition here. And similarly, if it wasn't aborted, then we set that to be this. Maybe I don't have to do this. It feels like I need to do this, though. Can I check the instance of abort error? Maybe. We ultimately ended up just checking the name, like, because we've implemented this 5 times already. This is what we settled on. We can log what the instance of is, though. Or type of? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the constructor is for it. Yeah. Let's see. Why do you use curly braces for one-line ifs? Did that come from someone else, or did you ask that? Because in the future, your one-line if will potentially become 2 lines, and if you forget the curly braces, now you have a bug. That's why I do curly braces for a one-line if. And if you use the Airbnb linting style guide, they have a rule that one-line ifs should use curly braces. But basically, it's like, all right, if you don't use curly braces, one statement fine. But if someone else comes along and does something else in here, what they don't realize is this line of code is not part of the if statement. So it's just good practice to use the curly braces so it's very clear later on if you decide to add more statements to it. I think we've done it. I think we've done it with Preact. So if I search for ASH, yeah, the first one went through because I waited too long, but then it canceled the AS request and then did make the ASH request, which is great. That's exactly what we want to see. And I guess the other thing is, I should be able to type all day long, and it's not going to make a request until I've stopped typing for 400 milliseconds. And so finally, after 400 milliseconds, it makes that request. We had a huge bug that took more than a week to fix because of one-line ifs. Yeah, so it's like you don't you don't know how important that rule is until you have to spend time trying to fix it. Cool. I think we've done it. I think the last thing though is we do want to show some messages in the UI. I am going to copy this from the React example because basically we want, by default, it should have a message to the user as to what they should do, like this. I guess I also wrapped these in a section. I'm Murdoch. Thank you for the tier 2. Appreciate you. Hi. Hi. I like your username paint. That's really cool. Okay. We want to look at this. So if debounce filter does not have a value, we show a message that says type to see suggestions. Otherwise, if there's not an error and we have a value and the results length is 0, value length is 0, then we're not loading dot value. We will say no suggestions to display. That's what we want. So let's see. So yeah, by default, it says type to see suggestions. And then as I start typing, now it says loading. But if I search for something that I can't find, it should say, what should it say? No suggestions to display. I forget the dot value. Yeah, I need the dot value everywhere. Thanks, Straw Hat. No suggestions to display. That's what we want to see. Cool. So we've done it. This is the Preact solution. I don't think there's anything we're missing here. The Twitch API deprecated the badges endpoint, and I need to update my chat overlay to use the new endpoint. And then for some reason, the emotes endpoint was broken too. So basically, it's broken. So we have this different chat overlay today. Do it with Alpine. I'll be honest, I'm exhausted. I'm just exhausted for this one solution. It could be interesting to do with Alpine though. I kind of want to do it with vanilla. I want to do it with vanilla JS. We tried Qwik, and apparently it needs a server runtime, and we're only showing solutions that don't require a server runtime. Yeah, I mean, I was contemplating it, Codex, because we could do TypeScript by default in the new overlay, and we could build a new backend for the overlay. Yeah, exactly, David. Well, it's only if you were using the badges.twitch.tv URL. Now you have to call api.twitch with a specific badges endpoint. Well, if we did lit, that would be web components, so that could be interesting. I think we would do it with TypeScript, not just vanilla. Yeah. But yeah, it could be interesting to do web components with lit. Let's look at our main README though. It could be interesting to refactor our React app to use signals. Sprindle JS? I've never heard of Sprindle JS. Um, I'm curious though. What would an Alpine solution look like? Also, there's this new. Not. I mean, I guess it's new to me. Yeah, HTMX. Sprinkle JS. Oh, well, so I think with lit dev, it's not that support didn't exist. It's that it makes it. You have a what do I want to say? There's a better dev experience for web components because otherwise you have to add your own templating method. I think lit also introduces like some state management, and they also give you these um, template functions that let you do things like this, which ultimately get compiled into a sort of render function. So I know that's what lit gives you. Um, Beyond just using web components. So lit is kind of like the framework that renders to web components, very similar to Stencil. Um, I think Stencil is the same thing. It's like it gives you like a little framework to create web components. And this one actually uses JSX, while lit uses these tagged template strings. Non-Twitch emojis are getting blocked. Oh yeah, it has to do with my overlay. I have blocked domains like that. Yeah, so that's blocking the um honestly though, let's do this. Whoa. Um these. I put this domain in the allow list. Let me fix this. Yeah, I thought I added. I did. Maybe I just haven't built it. Oh yeah, let me look at Sprinkle.js because I've not heard of it. The open source alternative to nothing. Is this it? Wait, it literally has functions for create variable? What? Is this a joke? Um, or is this some kind of like reactive state? What? Yeah, show me an example. Come on. Why do I need Sprinkle.js? Fascinating. This is an interesting concept of like taking, because this even lets you use the composition functions from Vue, and then you can just use them. I guess technically you could do that anyways. I don't know. All right, try sending emojis in the chat now. It's still broken. Well, I'm not gonna worry about it. Um, just regular emojis because those emoji images are loaded from Tweemoji, which is a Twitter emoji CDN. A bunch of commodity methods to bind the reactive variables to the DOM. Fascinating. Did you write this, Pablo? Is this your library? This is you, isn't it? Nice. Um, I guess you sent a message in the Discord at one point asking about this, I do believe. Fascinating. Um, I guess there's no templating though, right? The templates you would just have to um, do yourself. I guess you're it's not maybe what you need is an example with a counter or an example with like getting data from an API and then iterating it over it, just to show how that would be done in this compared to like React. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Uh, oh, here's a to do app. Look at it on CodePen. Create a store. Get the form. When it's submitted, set the to-dos. Oh, thank you. Arusubujin. Arusubujin? Appreciate you. Oh, and then you do have a tagged HTML function? Fascinating. Bind classes. And then how do we have our Oh, I see. So we're mapping over the list items. It's interesting you have this auto animate function. That's built in? Oh no, this is a separate library. Fascinating. I will say, Pablo, it doesn't click with me. Like I don't see why I would use something like this versus just adding like the view CDN to the web page, which could give me similar reactive functionality, if that makes sense. Maybe it's smaller than that. Cool. Let me look at Alpine.js and see if it's even possible to do what we're trying to do here. Because Alpine, I know, has an attribute for like fetch or for data. And buybackfish, thank you for the prime. Appreciate you. Very similar to Arrow.js. This is going to get nasty. I mean, if Alpine supports it, right? Because we need to be able to cancel requests. We need to be able to debounce input. Does it support that? Reactivity without the framework. Huh. And I guess the HTML helper like auto renders when this dependency changes. No worries, Pablo. It's cool. It's cool. I think I think you have to do things like that because that's how new interesting frameworks and libraries get created. I think I commend you for working on it. Alpine can use any JavaScript, so you can just send data to the page. I know in one of the original examples I saw, there was a way to make an API request. By just like this. You do an Axios thing, and then you get the data. Um, yeah. So this is literally making the request. However, I wouldn't use XHTML, right? Because I want to like iterate over the response. Um, I guess I would say X data, and then dark mode. Do they have a dark mode? They don't have a dark mode. We'll do this. Can't you map? Well, they have the X4. Yeah, they have this. So it's almost like you could have a parent element where X data is await some API request. Um, one way to find out. No, I mean it's piqued my interest because it's like, yeah, how would you solve this with just a bunch of HTML elements? Um, Fascinating. Okay. I also want to look at HTMX though, because this recently came across the news desk, and I'm curious how it's different than Alpine. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do now, Oscar. Is we're gonna look at HTMX because it looks very similar. I don't know which is more popular or more recent, um, but yeah, they have Ajax. Now I want to see Alpine. Yeah, it's like an interesting problem, right? It's like, wow, well, how would you actually implement that? The only selling point is memes. Um, cool. DOM model. Nice. Fascinating. But yeah, let's jump back into it. So they have at hx get. So this is what we would need. I'm curious though. This doesn't have a full URL. This is like potentially making a request against itself. If a library is gonna win me, they're gonna have memes. Yeah. Cool. Indicators. You have a spinner. That's cool. But I don't see an example calling a full URL. Write it in Rust. I feel like there's a few different front end Rust frameworks, right? There's U like YEW.js, isn't there? Dodrio has a virtual DOM. This would probably take me multiple days to figure out. I feel like because I've never done Rust before. All right, requests and responses. Hmm. I did Tari, but Tari is fairly simple because it's still just Node. But no, I didn't have to write any custom Rust for Tari. Why are we looking at libs? Because we are at this point. We've implemented it with all of these. We tried Qwik at the beginning and we couldn't figure it out. And now we're deciding, do we try to do it in one of these? Or do we just play City Guesser and just hang out? Because I think what I'm gonna do, I'm probably gonna do this off stream because I've thought a lot about, okay, now how can I turn this into a YouTube video that compares all of these frameworks? And it's gonna be kind of hard to do because I also want to gradually show you and compare all of the frameworks, right? Like I want to show you how do you bind the value of an input in React versus Svelte versus Vue versus Solid versus Preact with signals versus I guess vanilla. Yeah, so I don't want to do that live because I want to create slides. I want to create slides that on a single slide I show you how do you bind the value of an input across 6 different frameworks, and you can see all of them and compare them visually all in one go. So I'm gonna do that off stream. Um, but yeah, I don't think we're gonna do web components. It would be fun to do. Honestly, let's do it with vanilla and then convert vanilla into jQuery. I think we kind of have to, right? I'm probably going to. I'm gonna copy paste as much as I can. Um, I'll let you all vote. What do you want to see next? Do you want to see jQuery or do you want to see vanilla DOM? We're gonna vote between those two. But jQuery? I think we might end up doing both, but right now, what do you want to see? jQuery or vanilla TS? I see Mitt. Mitt Hafelishian. I'll call you Mitt. That makes sense. I was trying to figure that out. Like, and that's what it in the docs. That's what it kind of showed me. Is like, yeah, it's making a request against itself. So you don't do API requests. That's fine. I'm calling it vanilla TS because I'm gonna use TypeScript, even though it's gonna be vanilla JS. Like it's going to be document.query selector and document dot or element.text content. There's going to be that kind of code that I'm going to be writing. Yeah, I could see HTMX working out if you have some kind of backend already, and you just want like very simple pages that communicate with your existing backend. Yeah, we're going to use Vite. That's fascinating. There were several of you in the chat that were like, yes, jQuery. You haven't voted yet. Literally only one person voted for jQuery, and I saw like 3 people say they wanted to see jQuery. Let's vote again. I'm going to give you some more time. jQuery. Vanilla JS. Yes, in parentheses. I'll give you 3 minutes to vote, and I'll be right back. I'm gonna go pet my dog, take a quick stretch. When this poll is over, we'll start writing. Start writing some code. I thought it would be done by the time I got back. It looks like Vanilla JS is the winner. We'll do that. And my dog needs a bath. He smells really bad. So, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. If you're just joining us, we are going to implement an autocomplete UI using vanilla JavaScript, or in our case, vanilla TypeScript. We are going to use Vite to generate the app. But this will be our to-do with our vanilla Vite app. Mine's been having issues and has gotten many baths in this last week. Is it as big of an ordeal to give yours a bath as it is mine? So I have a Saint Bernard. He's a very big dog, and we can't bathe him at the house. Like, there's no way to control him. So we take him to like a pet store that has a bath that you can pay to use, but it's like a giant tub, and we have to like clip him in so that he doesn't try to run away. But yeah, we haven't tried that, but that could work. I honestly don't think he's not the biggest fan of peanut butter. Take him to the river, yeah. You have a Tweenie, you can bathe in the bathroom sink. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we've thought about, at least in the summertime, getting him like one of those kiddie pools and then using that. We haven't tried it yet, though. We should. Maybe we do that tonight. That could be fun. Maybe I'll do that. Okay. Here we go. We're going to create an app with vanilla. Did someone say peanut butter? Vanilla and TypeScript. Install dependencies. Here we go. By default, we've got a simple little Vite app with TypeScript. And really, I guess if you want to build a website that uses TypeScript but doesn't use a framework, this is probably the easiest way to do it. Because if you look at their example, they include a main.ts file, and like they get fancy with it, right? Like they're doing this, and then they've defined what they call like a component called counter, but this is just JavaScript code that adds event listeners and then like sets the values on the page and stuff like that. I don't think we're not even gonna get that fancy. We're gonna code it like the Pilgrims coded it. We're just going to like select the elements on the page, do the thing. Like right now, we could actually we could say inner HTML is hello world, and this should get us a simple little hello world like this. Like that. So our app is super simple. It loads the JavaScript. It sets HTML on the page. Exactly. Like the Pilgrims programmed. And then I'm gonna delete all this extra stuff. Cool. So now it just says hello world. Great. I think I still have it on my clipboard. Yeah, here's our to-do list. First step, Pico CSS. If you weren't here earlier, Pico CSS is really cool. It gives you some styles by default without having to use any classes. So we add this, we get some nice styles by default. This is just going to go in the head. And then now we've got dark mode hello world. One thing we can do though is, so like, instead of setting up everything in the JavaScript, like we can actually just start with a page that has our HTML, and then we specifically select the elements and then bind to them, right? So I can have a form and have like a label with an input. This will be for filter. And then this will say like enter the name of the tree. The ID will be filter, the name will be filter. We'll use this to select it in our JavaScript. And we'll make this a main and give it a class of container, which is like the one class in Pico. Oh, our TypeScript, our code is literally overwriting the entire thing. We don't want that anymore. We don't want, we want this. Yeah. So now, we want to, like get the value of this input, keep track of it. But now we didn't even create this with the template. This is literally just our HTML, right? So does everyone remember when we used to do this? Put actual HTML elements in our HTML. Yeah. But now our TypeScript file is just in charge of picking things off of the page and then making them interactive, right? So I think the first thing we want to do is keep track of the filter value. In a second, we'll like use this thing to call the API. Like this. People actually touch it? Yeah. So in order to keep track of that input filter value, honestly, we don't, if we're not using state, we don't even need to keep track of it. Like what we can do is when it changes, get the value. So that's really what we want to do. So I want something like a variable for the input element. I'll use query selector to grab the element with ID filter, right? So this has the ID of filter, should be good to go. I'm pretty sure that, okay, so this always scares people if you didn't know this happened. When you have elements with an ID in your JavaScript, you now have a global variable with that name. So watch this. You actually, like, I think TypeScript's gonna complain, but let's see. Look at that. So filter is just a magic variable because it has ID filter. And then also app is a magic variable because there's an element with ID app. Look at that. Who didn't know that? Who didn't know that you could do that? Yeah. We're not going to do that though. We're going to be very explicit and actually create our variables. Yeah, someone's mind is blown right now. Yeah, but you may not have known this. If you have IDs on elements, they actually get created as global variables by default. But we don't want that. We're going to be at least decent coders and explicitly create our element which selects it on the page. And then now it's expected that this should actually be that input element right there. Cool. So we want to listen for changes because as the user types, we'll then make an API request. So we're going to add an event listener for input. And for now, we'll just log it out. ID equals document. There's probably some rule around that. There's a 100% chance a code that uses this trick is in production, probably. Document.forms, I've never used documents.forms. And someone says, favorite thing to do for quick prototyping? Pablo says. Nice. Cool. Wait, what, Elka? What are you doing? HTML input element? Oh, I think the other thing is, so yeah, TypeScript complains because it's like, yeah, hey, this could actually be null. You're totally right. But I know that it will exist because my script is executing after it's already been loaded on the page. So yeah, there's multiple ways to handle it. I think you can do this. So if you do that, you're telling TypeScript that, hey, I know this will not be null. Or I think even up here, I can say as HTML input element. And then TypeScript, this is probably more explicit. I like that better. Then we're telling it that, hey, I know that's not going to be null. Cool. So when this changes, we want event.target.value. Let's see. Event.target is possibly null. Is that true? It's not true, right? Event target value is vanilla DOM. This should work. Yeah, see, it works. Why would TypeScript complain here? So event.target is possibly null. I know it's not going to be null. And then value does not exist on event target. Is there like, yeah, input event maybe? Let's see. Yeah, so if in our TS config, we have DOM and DOM iterable. Input I believe, is on every key press, whereas change is on blur. I think. Yeah. So I can type all day, but until the input is blurred, that's when it's called. So we don't want that. We want, you could also do key up. Yeah. What's up, W Zaps? Glad to see you. Pablo says it's a known thing in TypeScript. Current target is always defined. Okay. I guess what I can do is current target as HTML input element. Dot value. Is this how TypeScript wants this to be written? Because that's really cumbersome. Oh yeah, so like if some if you're good point, Titanfoot. So like if I paste, input gets called. Yeah, well, on change in React is I think synonymous with on input. If you noticed in the Preact example, we had to do on input. Okay, so every time the input changes, we're logging. That's good. Now we want to get those suggestions. So let's go grab our get autocomplete results. Here we are. Yeah, that's probably the better way to do it. So like, I think the one scenario is if the event gets called on a child, then current target would not be an HTML input element. But there are no children of this input, right? So current target is always going to be the input. So I think honestly this code is okay. Because the event isn't going to bubble here because it's literally on the element that we've called it on, right? I mean, I think I could even do event.target like that. Target is what triggered the event. Current target is what the listener is attached to. In our scenario, we've attached it directly. Like it would make sense to do something special if we attach that to like a parent, you know? But yeah, in this case, totally fine. Totally fine. Okay, so we now have this function, get autocomplete results. It reaches out to the API, gets back a response, resolves to it. It accepts an abort signal so it can be aborted. We want to call that here. So I want to call get autocomplete results. We'll import it. And I want to call it with this value. We'll make this async so we can call it. And then we need to pass in an abort signal. So create an instance of abort controller and then pass in abort controller dot signal like that. This should do it. When the input changes, call the API. There. We called the API. Beautiful. But like we showed earlier, every single key press causes a new API request, and we want to fix that. Before that, though, we'll show a loading error. We'll show messages on the page too. Filter.value. Well, the thing is, earlier we were using signals. Now it's just a literal reference to the element on the page. Honestly, though, what if I didn't even use the event, right? Because inside of here, I already know and I already have the input element. So I can just directly use its value like that. Right? What's stopping me from doing that? Yeah, it's interesting to think about, right, Codex? But like in this scenario, because our app is fairly self-contained, it is a lot simpler than some of the frameworks, right? Use CSS to show and hide the error. Oh no, I can like add it and remove it. Wait, that's illegal. It's not though, right? Because I have a reference to the element, and that's what's going to have the value when the input changes. That's illegal. Call the police. But as you can see, we don't want this because every single key press causes another API request. I don't want that. So we're going to fix that. But before that, we'll do some other things to show like a loading message and stuff like that. if the user deletes the element on the page, they got bigger problems. So yeah, when the filter changes, we're getting suggestions. Now we want to show a loading indicator. So, I mean, here's the thing. I would probably use CSS to hide and show that element, because otherwise I need to add and remove it from the DOM, and I don't really have a target to add and remove it from the DOM. Like I could have a wrapper, right? Like call this like the loading wrap. I don't think I'm gonna do that though. I think I'm literally gonna have this progress element, and I'll give it an ID of progress. And when the page loads, I'm gonna hide it. So like by default, it shows that. And actually I want that to be inside of here. So by default, it's spinning, use a section. But the thing is that like changes the layout of the page, right? Because basically what I would need is like the progress here, and then like I can add it and remove it from that div. But now this is a div that, oh, I guess I did wrap it in a section. The thing is, if at a certain point, then this would just become, I would like render this entire thing out based on a string in my TypeScript. I don't know if I really want to do that. What's up, Steven? Welcome in. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do this the raw DOM way. So we have an element with ID progress. Let's put it in a variable. Progress. Do we have an HTML progress element? Look at that. And then when the page loads, and actually, I mean, to kind of clean things up, I could create an init function that gets called once that has all of our like our init code, right? Init, which hides this, and then sets the event handler on the thing. So when the page loads, it's hidden. And then when you make a request, we set it to visible. And then when the request is done, we set it back to hidden. So, I mean, the hard part about actually creating the element and appending it to the page is like finding the right spot to append it to, right? Because there's going to be other stuff in here. So we have progress, but we also have like a message. So we also have like a div that's going to have all of the results inside of it. And then we also have like a paragraph tag that's going to say enter a tree. And then we're also going to have another paragraph that says like there were no results. So the tricky part about adding and removing it is having a reference to the specific spot in this section where we add and remove it from, you know? We could do that though. We could. The other thing is we could actually rebuild this entire thing every time the state changes, but then at that point we're basically just writing our own framework. Right? Like we could have JavaScript code that like yeah, I'm gonna toggle the style. That's what I'm used to. If I were building this myself, I would just set it style display none. That's what I do. So that's what we're gonna go with. HTML5 has error validation? What do you mean? I've never used that before. What does it do? But I am gonna grab my messages here. So type to see suggestions is what we want to display here. And then no suggestions to display is what we want to display here. It validates errors. I mean, what does it do though? What does it do? And then the results would be rendered out here, and then we conditionally render all of these things. Right? I'm gonna give all of these IDs so that I can reference them. Suggestion message. Results. No suggestions message. Right, so all of these have IDs, so I can control them in the DOM here. So we have the suggestion message element. I'm realizing how cumbersome this is now because I need to make sure that I don't have any typos in all of my things. But I can do this. Not that. This. Thanks, Taco Bandit. What's up? Yeah, so I met Taco Bandit in if it's the same Taco Bandit, I met them in Amsterdam in the streets, surprisingly, not even at the conference. Um, I walked out of a store and Taco Bandit was like, "Hey," and then we walked around a little bit. Nice, welcome in. Good to see you. Um, all right. When the page loads, results element needs to be hidden. Uh, no suggestions message element needs to be hidden. And this is the point where this gets really cumbersome to like toggle these all the time. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna write we're starting to write our own little framework because things get so cumbersome with vanilla DOM that we're gonna write a function called toggle display that takes in an element, which is an HTML input element, or no, HTML element. And if element.style.display is a thing, then we'll set it to that. But if it's not a thing, we'll set it to hide. Now we're building React from scratch. Well, the thing is, if we were building React from scratch, we would do it in a more declarative way. Like, instead of selecting the elements, we would build up an HTML string and set it. But I don't want to do that. Like that. Nice. Or what if we could pass multiple? This is getting ridiculous, honestly. Because what I was gonna say is, what if you took in an array of elements, and then for each one, you did this thing. Yeah. Add it to the prototype and just call dot toggle. But tell me this isn't cooler. So for each element, do that. And then this gets even simpler. Because now you just pass in several of them and it just toggles all of them. Right? I guess I don't know. At a certain point, I think this is so when people say, well, yeah, Codex, can you link me to like MDN or something? I don't know if you already did, but can you link me to MDN? You did. You did link me. Thanks. I'll look at these in a second. I do like the Boolean thing, so like, well, then we can't. It would have to be the initial value, and then it couldn't be optional. We could do like set display. And this is either empty string or none, like that. Right? Honestly, this is getting a little overboard, though. I prefer toggle too, but I'm too deep in the refactor. We're gonna leave it this way. Toggle hide, toggle show. Technical debt. I don't know. Honestly, this is now. I think this is too complicated now. I'm gonna go back. No refactor. We're gonna keep it as vanilla as possible, because I think once you start to introduce like these utility functions, you're basically just writing your own framework at that point. It was a fun. You saw the refactor, but we're going back. We're going back to this. Because now when you, I mean, this is very imperative. When you look at it, you know exactly what it's doing. Okay. Tech debt would be a fantastic name for a podcast. Ooh, I like that. Tech debt. Okay. Where are we at in our to-do? So we're showing the loading indicator. Now we actually want to show those suggestions on the page. So let's do that right here. I think beforehand, we'll set results element. We're going to just completely wipe it out. And then after we get back the results, I think in this scenario, we basically could build up an HTML string of all of the results and then like append it. But we also could create multiple elements. What's the other way to clear out the contents of a specific element besides inner HTML? Right? Because here's what I want to do. I want to say, wait. Does this not give us back? Results is of type any? Come on. Oh, that makes sense. Nice. Okay. So now for each result, we'll create a result element. This will be document create element article, and then set the text content to be result. And then we append, so we'll say results element append child result element. So that's going to put every single result onto the page. Yeah, but so that's the thing. Is this more performant than just wiping out the inner HTML? I guess it doesn't even matter. I mean, to me, if I don't actually care about the performance, this is easier to write. Wipe out the inner HTML versus remove every single one. Check it out. Now I can search for the letter A. It's loading. We make the API request, and then it appends it to the page, but it doesn't. Did we get an error? Oh, but we need to show the results element. That's the issue. There. The results element is already on the page, so it is living right here. It's just waiting for us to append or remove stuff from it. Okay, first of all, we want to show the suggestion message. That should be displayed by default. Why is that not there? Element.set HTML? I've literally never heard of that method. That's not a thing. Container.append and then pass in. I'm not opposed to that. We can do a map. Ooh, this is better. Replace children with these children. There we go, all in one go, and then I don't have to set inner HTML like this. Why doesn't it like this? Because I need to spread it. Sick. That's the winner, right? Everybody's happy, right? I'm not wiping out the HTML. I am calling the method, which under the hood will wipe out all the previous results and then add the new ones. Yeah, should be good. Let's think about this though, because if the input value, where is it? Right here. If the input value is empty, we want to not do any of this. We want to wipe out with nothing, and then set loading to not be displayed, set the results element to not be displayed. What's up, iFills? Welcome in. And then we actually want to show the suggestion message element. Like this. Well, the thing is, how often are you writing vanilla DOM like this, though? Okay, why is... Oh, that's on me. I did not close out my progress bar. There we go. So it says type to see suggestions, and then when you type a letter, we actually want to hide this. Yeah. Hide that. And then if results was empty, then we want to show the no suggestions to display. All right, moment of truth. So I type the letter A, we're loading, we make the API request, we get the data in the DOM. If I delete the letter A, all of a sudden it was loading again. Oh, I need to return here. So if there was no input value, do this, don't make the API request. That's what I want. So type the letter A, make the request, get it back, beautiful, delete it, no request is made, it's completely empty. Type this, we're gonna fix this in a second. Right now it literally makes 3 requests, but we're gonna do debouncing in just a second. So that's great. Cool. We're on our way. Now we need to show the error. To show the error, we're going to try catch this API request right here. Yeah. And if this throws an error, then we can show it in the DOM. And then we need an error element. We move portions of the code to clean. Yeah, we'll do our best to refactor afterwards. Like, I don't want to create utility functions, but we could, for example, refactor this into a function called reset results, right? Then it's a little more readable. Or this could be like initialize elements. I'm open to refactoring these into functions, but I don't want to create utility functions because at that point we're just creating a framework, and I don't want to. I want this to be as vanilla as possible without like a custom framework, if that makes sense. All right. What now? I need an error element on the page. So right here, we'll have an article that has an ID of error. And we'll pull up our Preact solution to see what the error box looked like. Yeah, just like a little inline style. But it's going to be different because it's vanilla. I'm okay with that codex. Yeah, I am okay with that. If we look at our Svelte example, it should have inline styles. Like this. That's an easy copy paste. Boom. Okay, now we need, oh man, this is really hard to read. Now we need an error element, which is a document query selector, get the element with ID error. And this is a HTML article element. Let's call it HTML element, which is fine. And if there was an error, then we'll say error element.text content is error.message, like that. But also part of resetting. And really we can do this. And every time we call this, reset the text content to be nothing. So that way, if there wasn't an error, then it gets emptied out. All right, let's see what happens. I guess and also we need to hide and show the error message as well. So right here, hide it. And then if there was an error, show it. What? What? Article ID error. Oh, by default, we also need to hide it, like on init. Yeah, so you can see here, we're basically adding to the inline styles display none. And then if there is an error, this causes an error, and then you can see that it gets removed from the inline style. But we're also noticing another issue, which we're about to fix with request cancellation. So I have my API set up so that if I search for the word boom, it will literally return a 500 error. But there was a background thing running that actually made the request for like BOO. Yeah, so this request resolved and got appended to the DOM, and then this request failed. Boo, boo. But what should happen is because this request got made, this request should have been canceled, and then it should have never added anything to the page. So that's what we'll fix next with request cancellation. Well, before that, we'll do debouncing, because we're not debouncing yet either. All right, it's happening. We're on our way. Thanks, Effect. I will hydrate. We're clearing the suggestions. Now we want to debounce the input value. Honestly, this should be fairly simple because we're already passing this function here. Really, all of this is what we want to debounce. For now, I'm just going to write it all in line, and then we'll go through it and refactor. Honestly, the refactoring might make a good YouTube video, so I'll leave it unrefactored for now, and then we'll pretend like we're making a YouTube video and refactor it. But I need this. I need a timeout ID. Starts off with a default value, and then this whole thing will be a set timeout. For now, we'll do like 700 milliseconds, and we'll set the timeout ID there. But if this gets called again, we want the we want to clear that timeout like that. And basically all of this code goes into that set timeout. So essentially what's going to happen, and we can make this async, and then this top level one doesn't have to be async anymore. But this is how you can think about it. So when we type into the input, this is going to get called every time, no matter what. So we type like A, this gets called. We type AB, this gets called again. But the first time we call it, we set a timeout that says in 700 milliseconds, make that API request and do all that extra code. But if someone keeps typing within the 700 milliseconds, clear the previous one and don't make the next request. So what this is going to solve is the user can basically keep typing. And as long as they're typing, we're not going to make an API request. But once they've stopped typing for 700 milliseconds, then we make the API request. This should do it. This should be all we need, and we have debouncing. Yes, good. And then if I stop, then it makes the API request. In this case, it threw an error. But now I can like search for the letter A. I can search for like AS. Makes the API request. Cool. So we have debouncing, but what we don't have is request cancellation, which actually should also be very, very simple based on what we just, based on how we've coded it so far. Because what we want is like, if I search for A and then AS and then ASH, because I keep typing, these other requests that were still in flight as the user was typing and a new request happened, these should have been canceled. And that's what we're going to implement next. So if a new request gets fired off, cancel any of the previous requests that are in flight. And that, my friends, is actually super simple. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll define this abort controller out here, and we'll let it be reassigned. And we'll put it there. But if this whole thing gets called again, we literally just say abort, because if there was a previous request, the next time this gets called, it's going to cancel the previous request. And then we have a new abort controller. And we're already passing in the abort controller signal. So our function that calls the API, fetch, when we fetch the API, you can actually pass in an abort signal. And behind the scenes, if it's aborted, it kills that request. So that should do it. The one thing is, though, we don't want to show the error if it was an abort error, but we'll show it for now to show that it's actually happening. So if I search for A, AS, ASH, you can see that A and AS, both of those requests were aborted, and then ASH was the only one that was made. Yeah. Because basically that's basically what happens is we call this thing, we pass in that, like if it's in flight, we pass in the abort controller, and then if this is in flight, it has a hold of that signal. So if signal.abort is called, this thing actually throws an exception, which is abort exception. And we can handle that. So now instead of displaying that in the UI, we can just check the error name. So if the error name does not equal abort error, then show that error in the UI. So now, we don't want that. It made a request with an empty filter. I thought we fixed that. Right? I ran prettier. Is there a bug? A? Request is made. Great. Oh no, I didn't want that. A. Loading. API request, results back to the DOM. Clear it out, no API request. You're totally right. You're totally right. I can actually do this here. Yeah, that's the way to go, because check this out. If the request is in flight like this, and then I get rid of it, and I backspaced, it canceled that request that was in flight. So cool. So it's okay to put this here because yeah, great. Let's see it in action though. Yeah, and I think at a certain point, because of the debounce, it's not even making like the AS request. I think like if we reduce the debounce to like 400 milliseconds, we'll probably get it to a point where you'll see more canceled requests. Yeah, so you saw that it canceled the A request and just made the ASH request. Great. Yeah, like technically what happens is like the request still was in flight. Like it still went across the internet to our server, and our server still technically responded, but now the browser isn't listening for that response anymore. Basically, it throws it, like it doesn't even throw it away. It's like it's not even listening for it. So technically the server still responds. Like there's more you would have to do if you want the server to not send the response at all. We're not handling that. But yeah, that's my theme. You can check it out over there. This is cool. I think we've done it. At this point, we should refactor though. At this point, this needs some refactoring. Because it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? But yeah, we were doing a manual debounce. Basically, this input, this on input function. So in our UI, we have an input here, and we have a listener for when the text changes. And this listener just gets called over and over and over again. But basically, each new time it gets called, we clear the timeout, which was going to make the request from the previous one. So this is how we're doing our debounce. We're setting a timeout ID and then clearing it every time the input value changes. All right, let's think about how we can refactor this. First of all, any of these like things that are happening here, all in a block, I want to kind of like give it a name. So I'm going to put it into a function. So like this, I want to do something like initialize elements, right? So let's refactor this into a function. And actually, let me talk about this like this is a YouTube video, because this will just be me refactoring some code, and you can see my thought process while I do it. Oh, we never looked at this, though. Setting a custom validity. This has to do with form validation, though, right? We're not really doing any form validation. Cool. I don't think this applies to what we're doing. I think Codex sent this earlier because we're not doing form validation. This more so has to do with like the response that comes back from the server, like this. I'm gonna say we don't need that for now. Cool. Cool. What's up, ambitions? RxJS is a lot. Like, so I last time we worked on this, I used RxJS to implement the Angular solution. So if you're just joining us, this is like the sixth solution we've implemented for this. If you look at the GitHub repo, we've implemented this same thing in React, Svelte, Vue, Solid, Angular. Today we did it in Preact with signals, and just now I did it with Vanilla.js. But if you look at this repo, there is an Angular example, and you can see how we did it with RxJS. And it's a lot. I mean, I feel like what do I want to say? It changes the way you program entirely, right? Like you basically have to think about everything in terms of like data flow. And that's very different than how we implement things like in React or Vue or even Svelte. Though I think you can use RxJS in conjunction with those other things. So yeah, what do I think of it? It's fine. I'm honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of like purely functional paradigms, just because most programmers don't know how to do that. And in order for a new programmer to even understand this code, they need to basically learn all about functional programming and like pure functions and data streams. And like that's a lot more no worries, ambitions. I'm not unsubscribed. Oh, I thought you were saying you're gonna unsubscribe from my channel because I don't like RxJS. I was like, yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, there potentially could be a memory leak here because I don't unsubscribe. No, I do, right here. So yeah, so I think that's my opinion of it, is like, in order to do it, you have to think about how to solve your problems in a completely different way. And I think that creates a potential issue with onboarding new developers, because this is not a super common way of solving things. So once you learn it, I don't know. I'm honest. I'll just say I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'll say, if I got put onto a team that was doing it, I'd figure it out. But would I choose to do it? Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like once you get embedded in it and you use it more and more, you start to think in a more functional way, in a more like streams oriented way. So at that point, it's probably easier for you to reach for it and to solve stuff with it. But at this point, if I tried to use it in the apps that I'm building, it would take me longer because I'm not used to thinking in that way. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. And but here's the other thing: is in Angular you don't have to use RxJS. So we actually implemented the same component without RxJS. We just have a component with a bunch of variables, and then we just do it in a similar way that we were doing it in vanilla and also in some of the other frameworks. But we're setting the values on the component properties, which updates the UI. So for most devs that haven't used Angular before, they probably could understand this code. But if you try to show them the RxJS one, it's gonna take some learning. Yeah, I mean, and I haven't tried to use signals inside of Angular. The thing is, I don't know how it would change the code much, right? Because Angular has always allowed you to like directly modify the class properties. Like there's no like setter function or anything, you just modify them. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked to see what signals would give you. All right, what are we doing? We were gonna make a YouTube video, but I'm exhausted. I think I need to go. I've just been streaming for too long. I think I'm not going to make a YouTube video out of it, but I will refactor it. Let's refactor it without trying to put on for YouTube. Here we go. This should be a function, and we can give it a name. Like these 4 lines of code are doing something specific, and I am going to give it a name. VS Code has this little refactor function. So I'm going to extract this to a function in the module scope, which means it's going to create a function like right above it. And I am going to call this initialize elements, because that's what it's doing, right? So when we init our app, we want to initialize the elements. Great. These few lines of code are kind of like resetting the UI. And then also like clearing the timeout and aborting technically resets the UI as well. So I'm actually going to refactor this into a little function called reset UI, like that. Beautiful. So that this now all of a sudden looks a little bit cleaner, and I can immediately read like what this thing is doing. This. I'll leave this. This is totally fine. I think one refactor we'll do in a minute is everywhere we have setting style display to none, we will change this to toggle a class name so it's not directly editing the styles. Okay, the other thing is I think this whole thing right here should be a separate function. So I'm actually just going to pull this out, and I'll say get results, get filter results. Then we have a function. Well, it's this, but I'll rename it to get filter results. Like that. So now, at a glance, if we look at our little init function here, it's a bit easier to read at a glance, right? So when we init the app, we initialize the elements, whatever that means. I can go to the function if I really want to know what that means, but it has a pretty good name. Then we reset the UI. I could guess what that means, right? Like clear the progress bar, clear any of the results, show the original message on the page. That's the reset UI. Then if there was no value of the input, hide the message. No, show the suggestion message, clear out all of the children. And if there was an input value in 400 milliseconds, we're going to get all of those results. So I think this is a pretty good refactor. It took that really, really, really long function and made it a bit more readable at a glance. And now we can look at our individual functions and potentially try to refactor those as well. Like, let's look at get filter results. This can probably be broken down further. So we create the abort controller. We hide the suggestions element. We show the progress. We get back the results. This piece right here, I think, can be refactored into a function. Something like show results on page, or like render results. So I'm going to refactor this to just show results. I feel like render is like a very specific thing. I mean, we're kind of rendering, but basically get the results, show the results. Easy. This could be show error, but it's really just 2 lines. I don't think I would refactor that into a function. It's pretty good. I think this is pretty good. This is we basically took that monstrosity and took pieces of functionality and gave it a name so that when another developer comes along, it's a bit easier to follow what the code is doing versus just seeing like a big block of text. So I'm pretty happy with that refactor. I think the last thing I'll do is, instead of having this style display none everywhere, yeah, I think you could get to that point as well, right? So like show progress bar, hide progress bar. I think what we're going to do here is everywhere we have style display none, we're going to refactor that into a function that actually, well, not even a function. Let's do this. So literally everywhere in my code where I set style display none, I want to say class list dot add show. No, hide. Like that. And then I just need a CSS class called hide, which sets display none. So I think that's probably the best way to go here. So I have hide. I don't think I want to do toggle though, because then it means it has to be called in a specific order. So I'm going to set this to display none. Add it to the parent and use specificity? I don't know. Well, no, I think you're totally right here, because toggle, does it? Let's go back. Let's go back. Toggle hide true. Cool. And then anywhere we're setting style to display like that, we want class list dot toggle hide false. No, true. No. Wait, did I do that wrong? Oh man. Let's see what this does. Let's see if I did it right. Is somebody pounding my API right now? False equals remove, true equals add. Okay, I think I did it though. When the refactor is more characters. Yeah, it's true, it's more characters, but it's a bit easier to comprehend than like setting display none. So parent wrapper is loading. I see. So set this, I see what you're saying. Set the status on the parent element, and then we don't have to individually toggle these things. Then we do it all with CSS. That is a much bigger refactor that I don't want to do. But I've never done that before. But that makes a whole lot of sense, right? So we have we could do it all here. So we could say something like container and then has error display block. But otherwise container error display none. And then has error would be on here like that. Oh, are they? VS Code doesn't seem to think so, but yeah. But I see what you're saying. So we could do that for error. We could do that for progress. And then we're just toggling has error or is loading or has results on the container versus like hiding and showing each individual element. I like it. But I'm not going to do it because it would be a pretty big change. Yeah. Cool. All right. I'm happy enough with this. I'm going to push it up. Let me make sure my to-do is up to date. Does it still work? Yeah, I didn't change anything. I guess I'll test it, but I didn't change anything. So now we've got vanilla. Next time, jQuery, maybe. Honestly, I don't think there's gonna be a next time. If someone can figure out how to do Qwik without a server-side runtime, we'll do it with Qwik. But otherwise, yeah. Well, yeah, we tested since the refactor, but I'll make sure. Okay. No errors in the console. Alpine just seems like a challenge. Like, I don't think you would ever do that in the real world because there's so much JavaScript happening. Like, you have the debouncing, you have the request cancellation. It's tricky. Yeah, so request cancellation still happens. The results pop up. They get cleared out. I can force an error. And if the API responds with nothing, no suggestions to display, we've done it. We've done it. I would say jQuery is probably, I mean, it's still used a lot, but I don't think anybody's building full applications with it, right? Like if you're building a web app, you reach for a framework like React or Svelte or Vue. Yeah. So yeah, vanilla works. We should build a test for this. Honestly, that's what's cool is we could have a single test suite that runs against every other one as long as the layout of the UI is exactly the same, right? But yeah, that's actually, I mean, because we implemented it the same for every single one. We could have written a playwright test and just point it at whatever instance. Cool. Did I push it up? Yeah. So if you're interested in looking at any of these solutions, go check out this repo. And one more shout out, go watch Mewtrue's video because that's what inspired all of this. She implemented it with React and talked about how this is a pretty common interview question to have them ask you to implement something like this. So definitely go watch her YouTube video as well. Oh yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing is if you look at jQuery on npm, $6 million downloads. But what's funny about this, that means people are using jQuery within a build system, right? They're using jQuery via npm, via an npm install. That's just one set of metrics, right? You then also have the metrics of people pulling in jQuery from a CDN, and that's even more. But yeah, what do you mean codecs? I demonstrated my understanding of what you were asking. 20,000 dependents. Wow. They don't know that they're using it? That's funny. But are you saying, Codex, you would have failed me because I didn't think of that solution to begin with? Because if that's the case, I don't want to work for you. Because I've literally never done that kind of thing before. But I showed that I understood what you were talking about and I could implement it if you really wanted me to, you know? Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. But I'll be live tomorrow around the same time, and the plan is to just do a variety of things. There's a couple of YouTube videos that I want to work on. But we also might just do like a code Q&A, a hangout tomorrow. But hopefully I'll see you then. Check the schedule to see it in your own time zone. Follow me over on YouTube. Follow me over on Twitter. No, I got to get out of here, Oscar. But yeah, follow me all over the web. We have a Discord if you want to keep chatting with us. See you later, Limeotes. See you later, America 2050. Appreciate you all for hanging out. And if you're in the Denver area, check out my recent tweets because I'm starting Denver script back up. So this is a local Denver meetup all about JavaScript. If you're interested, and if you want to give a lightning talk, we're going to do a raid. And you want to give a lightning talk, definitely check this out. And you can meet me in person if that's something that you want to do. Wait, Limeotes has a bot, and he never let me use it? I don't know, but yeah, let's go on a raid. If you are a sub, use this raid message. If you're not a sub, you can use this raid message. You can also come up with your own raid message. Yeah. Yeah, so that's my plan with the meet. So I'm part of the new organizing committee, and one of my roles is live streaming. So if you look at that tweet, there's a link to the Denver Script YouTube channel. It's all going to be live streamed there, so you'll be able to watch it while it happens and after it happens as well. Cool. All right, let's get out of here. See you tomorrow, wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.